The Oscars are on tomorrow night, and it seems like the critics' pick is The Hurt Locker, which I watched last night. And hello, unless you grew up playing with G.I. Joes, what's there to like about that movie? Ew, what a waste of a couple, 2, 3 hours that, I mean, yeah, it held my interest, but Best Picture, I don't think so. And, especially when it's up against such a beautiful film as Avatar, and I'm not even quite sure that should get it. I'm rooting for Inglourious Basterds. Okay, so occasionally I come across an article, and I would like to share this one with you because it's so beautifully written. So I'm going to read the article, which I know is pretty boring. It's by Charles Thomson, and it's from the Huffington Post. And it's called Michael Jackson, It's Time for Outlets to Take Responsibility in Covering the Rock Star. Last week, Michael Jackson's guitarist discredited widely reported allegations about the star's behavior on the road. So why is the media refusing to publish her comments? British writer Charles Thomson explores media bias against black music's biggest star. Aging glam rocker Gene Simmons made international headlines last month when he claimed to know that Michael Jackson had molested children. It goes on to talk about what followed was a classic example of copy and paste journalism. Within hours, the story had been duplicated by hundreds of blogs, forums, and news websites from Australia to India to the USA. None of them had fact-checked the story before they rehosted it. Jackson was never on tape ordering alcohol for children. There was never any testimony during his trial about young Brazilian boys. Both of these claims were easily disproven by trial transcripts. As a relative Jackson expert, I was also unaware of any musician ever leaving one of the singer's tours midway through. So when I sat down a fortnight ago for an interview with Jackson's long-serving tour guitarist Jennifer Batten, I ran the story by her. She told me that no musician had ever quit a Jackson tour. 2 musicians had been fired, but both were let go before the show hit the road, so they couldn't possibly have witnessed anything going on inside the hotels. When Soft News published Batten's rebuttal, I observed an all too familiar phenomenon. Although the story appeared on Google News and was picked up fairly swiftly by the Examiner, nobody else seemed willing to touch it. While Simmons' speculative and ultimately baseless accusations had been reproduced the world over, Batten's expert rebuttal was being suppressed. I soon began receiving emails from Jackson's fans telling me that they were sending the story to every celebrity news outlet that they could think of, including several of those which published Simmons' initial allegations. But more than 48 hours later, typing an exact quote from Simmons' rant into a search engine produced almost 350 web pages. The number of news outlets hosting Batten's rebuttal? 3. This was not the first time I'd had a Jackson story suppressed. After Evan Chandler's suicide in November 2009, I was contacted by The Sun and asked to supply information about the 1993 allegations. I spent quite some time compiling my research, advising the newspaper of common myths and how to avoid them, being careful to source all my facts from legal documents and audio-visual evidence. When I read the finished article, I was stunned to find that all my information had been discarded and replaced with the very myths I had advised them to avoid. I alerted staff to the inaccuracies, but my emails were not replied. The same inaccuracies appeared in every single article I read about the suicide. The same bias manifested itself the following month when Jackson's FBI file was released. Across more than 300 pages of information, there was not one piece of incriminating evidence, but that's not the way the media told it. Jackson's FBI file overwhelmingly supported his innocence, but its contents were routinely manipulated to give the opposite impression. Many are quick to scoff when Jackson's fans speak of a media conspiracy to destroy the star's reputation, and I used to scoff with them. As a member of the industry, I prefer not to think of it as sinister and conspiratorial, but I find it increasingly difficult to explain away the bias with which Jackson is treated. The bias against Jackson is undeniable. The suppression of Batten's comments prove once more that when it comes to Jackson, the media is interested not in fact or reason, but negativity and sensationalism. It is time for outlets to assume responsibility for their own content. Websites should not rehost other publishers' stories unless they can be completely certain that the content is factual. Even if the media refuses to print the truth about Jackson, they should compromise by not printing the lies either. At least that way he can rest in peace. My vote is for Inglourious Basterds. Please take a look at the video that I've attached to this video. What does Inglourious Basterds and Michael Jackson have in common? And if you want to take a look at the whole article that I read most of anyway, I've attached the link under the description part over to the side.